Imagine you are reviewing a medical scan. The artificial intelligence flags a tumor, and it is completely correct.
Right, which sounds like a win.
It does. But here's the terrifying part. The AI didn't actually spot the tumor. It just recognized the specific, invisible quirks in how the attending doctor usually draws circles on a screen.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, just guessed based on that. Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we are exploring the absolute bleeding edge of artificial intelligence in healthcare.
It is a massive topic.
It really is. We have a huge stack of 20 groundbreaking research papers to get through today. We're covering medical imaging, robustness benchmarks, and even autonomous healthcare systems.
Because we are moving way past the hype phase of AI, right?
That's exactly. We're in the reality phase now. We're grappling with real-world bias, combining multiple types of scans the way a human doctor would, and looking at autonomous agents that can act as your digital twin. So, okay, let's unpack this.
It is so critical that we do unpack it, because if you and I are going to trust an algorithm with our lives,
which is definitely the trajectory we're on.
Right, we cannot treat it like a magic box anymore. We have to understand exactly how it makes decisions. We need to know the mechanics of where it excels, and honestly, more importantly, the underlying reasons why it breaks.
Yeah, and before we get to the shiny new AI tools, we really need a reality check. Do the current models actually work for everyone in the messy real world?
That is the million-dollar question.
So to answer that, we have to start with paper 3, and this was an absolutely massive collaborative effort. We are talking a team spearheaded by Qichen, Weng-Xuan Li, Pedro Arias-Bassi, Xinzi Zhu, 𝗂𝗵𝗶𝗶𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗁, and Ibrahim-Itham-Hammam.
Which is already a huge group.
Right, and the list goes on to include Sezgin, Ashwin Kumar Yuan-Ye, Yuhan Wang, Yoin Zhu, Akshay S. Chogari, Curtis Langlotz, Kang Wang, Yang Yang, Alan L. Ewell, and Zhongwei Zhu.
Yeah, when you have an author list that long, you know the data set they're working with is going to be huge.
Exactly. So paper 3 introduces BenchX. And BenchX evaluated 12 different AI models on over 85,000 CT scans.
That's a serious benchmark.
It is. But the results? The models consistently fail on rare subgroups, specifically young female African Americans.
And that right there shatters the illusion of average accuracy. You know, a developer might look at their model and boast about a 95% success rate.
Sure.
But what paper 3 reveals is that this success is heavily weighted toward the majority demographic in the training data. The AI hasn't learned human anatomy in the abstract.
It's just memorized what it saw most often.
Exactly. It has memorized the anatomy of the specific people it was shown. So when the demographics vary, or even if just the hospital imaging protocols vary, the system's performance doesn't just dip, it drops off a cliff.
And it isn't just the patients causing the variability, right? It is the human doctors teaching the AI.
Yes.
Which brings us to the problem I mentioned at the start of the show.
Yeah.
We see this tackled in paper 1. This one is by Qi Li, Yuliang Huang, Shihir Syed, Qianye Yang, Vasilis Severnides, Zachary M. C. Bohm, Dean C. Barrett, J. Alison Noble, Tom Barakata, and Yipeng Hu.
Right, the annotation bias study.
Yeah. So paper 1 tackles annotation bias. If you ask 3 different doctors to circle a tumor on a scan, you get 3 slightly different circles.
Because humans are subjective.
Exactly. But the authors use a Gaussian process framework to mathematically separate the actual image data from the subjective quirks of the doctor who annotated it. But I have to admit, Gaussian process sounds a bit dense. How does that actually work in practice?
Think of it like trying to read a handwritten letter. 2 different people can write the exact same word, but one uses heavy, looping cursive, and the other uses sharp, tiny print.
Right, totally different styles.
A Gaussian process in this context is a statistical tool that separates the underlying word, which is the objective reality of the tumor, from the specific handwriting style of the doctor.
Ah, so it separates the bias and variance out.
Exactly. It explicitly decomposes the predictions so that the AI's internal logic isn't just blindly copying human inconsistency.
So we're trying to stop the AI from inheriting human quirks. But the AI has its own bizarre ways of seeing the world too, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Like we see in paper 11. This is authored by Christian Zollner, Mossam Motiwala, Aysel Ahadova, Garrett Anders, Robert Hunneberg, Jacob Natterman, and Matthias Klor.
This one is fascinating.
It really is. Paper 11 investigates latent space transformations in histopathology. They found that when you rotate or alter an image, which is a standard trick developers use to artificially create more training data, right?
Right, data augmentation.
Yeah, the AI doesn't completely ignore that transformation.
To understand why that matters, you have to understand latent space. You can visualize latent space as the AI's massive internal filing system.
Okay.
Ideally, if you show the AI a picture of a cell, and then you show it the same picture rotated upside down, it should file them in the exact same folder labeled same cell.
Because it's the same biology.
Right. But paper 11 shows it doesn't. The AI doesn't fully neutralize the effect of the rotation in its latent space. It files them slightly apart. Yeah. This explains why simply feeding an AI-augmented data still tricks it, or artificially inflates its perceived accuracy. It's learning the rotation, not just the biology.
That makes the model sound incredibly fragile, and when the biology gets complex, they can just panic. Look at paper 15. This is by 𝗬𝗓𝗏 𝗵𝗽𝗽𝗲 and 𝗪𝗵𝗏s.
The PHOEBI benchmark.
Right. Paper 15 introduces the PHOEBI benchmark for bacterial identification using phase contrast microscopy, and they discovered that AI models fail drastically when they encounter new, unseen combinations of polymicrobial mixtures.
It is a failure of combinatorial generalization.
Meaning what, exactly?
Well, if the AI has been trained on bacterium A and bacterium B separately, it should theoretically understand a mixture of A and B.
But it doesn't.
It doesn't. The visual overlap, the way the bacteria physically interact on the slide, if the AI hasn't seen that exact cocktail before, its predictive confidence just collapses.
And this fragility isn't limited to looking at tiny bacteria. It happens with basic text, too.
Yes, unfortunately.
Let's look at paper 17. This one is by 𝗬𝗏𝗀 𝗪𝗪, Yusheng, Jianwang, Jinjigu, Zixuanshu, and Cui Ren. Paper 17 introduces the EHR-Complex benchmark.
Testing agents on electronic health records.
Exactly. You would think an AI could easily read a medical chart, but the absolute best model only achieved a 62.3% accuracy.
Which is barely passing.
It failed because of basic SQL logic errors and failures in looking up medical codes. It's like evaluating an autonomous car in a perfectly empty sunny parking lot. Of course it looks smart.
Right, there are no obstacles.
But toss it into a rainy rush hour with detours and it crashes. It looks like a genius until it hits the real world.
That analogy is spot on. What's fascinating here is that the bottleneck across all these papers isn't a lack of computational power.
It's the data.
It's the diversity and quality of the reality we use to train them. The messy reality of rare demographics, overlapping bacteria, and complex database logic breaks these narrow systems.
So if single-task AIs are failing in the real world, how do we fix it?
We give them the peripheral vision of a human doctor.
Right. A doctor doesn't just stare at an X-ray in a vacuum. They read your chart, they check your history, and they combine everything. That brings us to our next major theme, which is multimodal integration.
This is where things get really exciting.
Let's start with paper 2. This is by Jiaxiang Liu, Tianxiang Hu, Zhuwei Guan, Yuji Wu, Yusong Wang, Yao Mu, Zhuzhu Liu, and Mingkun Xu. Paper 2 introduces BioMedVR,
which adapts vision language models to medicine.
Exactly, using visual reprogramming. Crucially, they use a confusion minimization mechanism to suppress false positives. But what exactly is visual reprogramming?
Essentially, these massive AI models were originally trained on regular internet images, cats, dogs, stop signs.
Right, general knowledge.
Yeah. Visual reprogramming is a technique to take that general knowledge and translate it into the medical domain without having to read the AI from scratch.
And what about the confusion minimization?
It's like putting a pair of noise-canceling headphones on the AI. Medical images have incredibly subtle textures, and the AI often flags healthy tissue as an anomaly.
Oh, I see.
This mechanism forces the model to mathematically suppress that background noise and focus only on true pathological features.
So we're giving it focus. And we need that focus for complex 3D data, too. In paper 7, the team tackles this. It's by Minh Duc Do, Tillman Rude, Noel Cronenberg, Roland Isles, and Benjamin Wild.
The MICVIT paper.
Yeah. Paper 7 proposes MICVIT. It's a 3D vision transformer for brain MRIs. It uses 4 different attention mechanisms to model both the specific type of scan, like a T1 or a FLAIR scan, and the cross-modal interactions between them.
This is a huge leap forward. Different MRI modalities highlight different tissues. One might show fluid clearly while another highlights fat.
Right.
MITV doesn't just analyze them side by side. Its attention mechanisms actively learn how the shadows in a T1 scan mathematically correlate to the bright spots in a FLAIR scan. It is fusing the physics of the imaging directly within the model.
And some models are going beyond just fusing images. They are creating them.
Which is wild.
Yeah. In paper 8, authored by Qingxia Li, Zikai Wang, Qinglei Wang, and Nanzhu, we see S1 Omni image. So paper 8 details a unified model that doesn't just understand scientific images, but generates and edits them based on scientific text.
Truly multimodal.
But I have to push back on this whole concept a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's consider paper 18. This is by Bowen-Shi, Weiwei Cao, Rufeng Yuan, Wangxing Chang, Wenrui Dai, Hongkai Jiang, Ling Zhang, and Jianpeng Zhang.
Okay, the disease-centric pre-training one.
Right. Paper 18 uses disease-centric vision language pre-training for 3D CTs. They use a hybrid encoder to capture tiny anatomical details while simultaneously aligning them with massive textual radiology reports.
It's a lot of data.
It is. If we are forcing an AI to process text, 3D spatial scans, and clinical notes all at the exact same time, are we risking making it a jack-of-all-trades, master of none? Isn't the model just going to get overwhelmed?
That's a very logical concern. And honestly, it was a major problem in early multimodal models. They did get overwhelmed.
Right.
But the solution lies in how we design cross-attention. Let's look at how this is solved in paper 20.
Okay. Paper 20 is by Julian Clout, 𝗪𝗏 𝗪𝗏𝗀𝗵𝗹 𝗪𝗵Prát, Antoine Saporta.
A big French research team.
Yeah, and it continues with 𝗲𝗏𝗎𝗪, Léo Machado, Corentin Laflache, Tom Boken, Pierre Masseron, and Corentin Dansette. Paper 20 introduces Julia and the 𝗠𝗲𝗃 method.
Yes.
So how does 𝗠𝗃 stop the overwhelm?
Well, in older models, you would take a massive 3D CT scan and a long text report and crush them down into one single dense token of information.
Which is like trying to drink from a fire hose.
Exactly. 𝗠𝗃 changes the architecture entirely. It learns specific cross-attention queries for specific organs without needing a human to manually outline the organs first.
Oh, wow.
Think of a text report as a flashlight. The model uses the words in the report to anchor its visual search in the vast 3D space of the scan. It's not staring at everything at once.
It's using the text to guide its eyes.
Exactly, which is exactly how human radiologists are trained to look at a scan.
So the text is the flashlight pointing at the 3D data. That makes complete sense. We've seen how AI handles standard medical inputs, but what if we move beyond the hospital? What if AI could turn completely ordinary inputs into deep medical insights?
This is the shift from clinical interpretation to uncovering hidden biological signals in our daily lives.
Exactly. Let's talk about paper 5. This one's by Zixu Li, Jianjun Qin, Hong Shao, Lei Luo, and Jian Yang. Paper 5 introduces PHYSFlow.
The remote photoplethysmography paper.
Yeah, RPPG. This model extracts your pulse from standard facial videos. It separates the trend of your pulse from the amplitude to filter out disturbances like head movements or bad lighting.
It is literally reading the microfluctuations of blood under your skin using a standard webcam.
It's unbelievable. And the principle of looking at data in a completely new way applies at the microscopic level, too.
It does. Consider paper 9. This is by Fan Wu, Weihao Xuan, Zhi Leskavec, Yejin Choi, and Li Aaron Li. Paper 9 presents 𝗪𝗡bind.
And this is for protein interactions, right?
Right. Traditionally, to predict how proteins interact, models would read the sequence of the protein. You know, like reading the letters in a word.
Sure.
𝗪𝗡bind doesn't do that. It looks at the actual 3D topographic molecular surface.
Why is topography better than the sequence?
Because biology is physical. Reading the sequence is like reading the recipe for a cake. Looking at the topography is like looking at the physical shape of the cake pan.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
𝗪𝗡bind maps the actual physical peaks and valleys of the molecule to see exactly how another molecule might slot into it, like a key into a lock.
But mapping 3D molecular surfaces sounds incredibly computationally heavy.
It is, which is why developers are constantly looking for shortcuts that don't sacrifice accuracy.
Which brings us to paper 12. This is by Diego E. Farchina, Ramzi Adoui, and Peter Wonka. Paper 12 outlines a lightweight neural framework that calculates 3D volume and surface area directly from 2D multi-view images.
It completely bypasses the need for heavy 3D point cloud optimization.
Yeah, it mathematically infers the 3D properties straight from 2D pictures, keeping the system incredibly fast and lean. It's all about extracting maximum signal from minimum data.
Exactly.
Which is also the goal of paper 13 by Jae-Hyun Cho and Young-Jun Yu. Paper 13 introduces NGPS. It's a method for denoising medical images by looking at neighboring slices in a scan.
Because normally, if medical slices don't perfectly align, combining them creates a blurry ghosting effect.
Right. It's like trying to read a badly printed 3D comic book without the glasses.
Yeah.
NGPS uses neighbor-guided patch sampling to act as those glasses. It perfectly snaps the blur back into focus by cleverly borrowing structural data from the adjacent slices without copying the misalignment.
And that level of precision allows us to detect incredibly subtle things.
Which perfectly sets up paper 14 by Felipe Moreno, Sharifa El-Ghodam, Haewon Park, and Cynthia Brazil. Paper 14 presents Expresso-AI.
This is a really powerful application.
It really is.
Yeah.
This system diagnoses depression severity by analyzing facial expressions in videos over time. It generates saliency maps to show exactly why it made its diagnosis based on the semantics of your microexpressions.
Which is incredible.
Think about that for a second for you, the listener. The AI is picking up on the tiny subconscious tells of depression that even trained psychiatrists might miss in real time.
Yeah?
And because it just uses video, your laptop webcam could essentially become a continuous diagnostic tool. It's an amazing capability, but also slightly unsettling to realize your devices could always be quietly analyzing your mental health.
It represents a massive paradigm shift. We are moving from episodic care, going to the doctor when you already feel sick, to continuous ambient diagnostics.
Right.
But for ambient diagnostics to work, the AI cannot just be a passive observer waiting for a prompt. It has to become an active agent.
And that is the final frontier of our deep dive today, autonomous agents. We have the data, we have the multimodal models, we have the new sensors. The final step is an AI that autonomously reasons and acts.
The agentic future.
Let's look at paper 4 by Mohamed Mehdi Hosseini, Mohamed H. Mahour, and Hiroko H. Dodge. Paper 4 explores language-based digital twins for elderly cognitive assistance.
Yes.
They're using large language models to mimic an older adult's precise conversational behavior to detect mild cognitive impairment over time. It's literally a digital mirror of a patient's mind.
And these agents aren't just having conversations, they are orchestrating hard science. Look at paper 6 by Yucheng Yuan, Yuanfeng Ji, Zhongxia Li, and Riyang Li.
The SP-Mind system.
Right. Paper 6 introduces SP-Mind, an autonomous AI agent for spatial proteomics.
What does orchestrating actually mean in this context, though?
It means the AI is acting like a lab director. You give it a natural language query, and it doesn't just spit back code.
Okay.
It breaks the query down, selects the right analytical tools, writes the code, runs the data through the proteomics pipeline, checks for errors, and synthesizes the final biological insights all by itself.
Wow, without requiring human task-specific fine-tuning.
Exactly. It's reasoning through the pipeline.
And it's not just pipelines. It is fundamental physics. In paper 10 by Daniel Raymond, Charlie B. Tan, Yoshua Bengio, Evashek Joey Bose, and Alexander Tong, we see autoaggressive Boltzmann generators.
A really heavy paper.
Yeah. Paper 10 is fascinating because they're replacing older heavy physics simulations with LLM-style architectures to simulate molecular systems at thermodynamic equilibrium.
Wait, why would an architecture built for chatbots work for molecular physics?
Because at their core, large language models are just sequence predictors.
Right.
A chatbot predicts the most logical next word in a sentence. The autoregressive Boltzmann generator takes that exact same mathematical logic, but instead of predicting the next word, it predicts the most logical next atomic state in a complex molecular structure.
Based on the laws of thermodynamics.
Exactly.
That is brilliant. It's predicting physics instead of vocabulary. But why does giving these AI systems agency, like the ability to use tools and plan, actually make them smarter?
For that, we turn to paper 16 by Zihan Qin and Hongui Zhang.
Paper 16 is titled Agentic System as Compressor. The authors mathematically prove that adding agentic behaviors like tool use or web searching to an LLM actually reduces the mathematical code length of a task.
Code length.
Yes. In information theory, compression is intelligence. If you can compress a complex puzzle into a shorter, more efficient sequence of steps, you understand the puzzle better.
Ah, I see.
Giving the AI agency allows it to objectively compress the reality of a problem faster than a standard model. It literally quantifies system intelligence in bits.
Which leads us to the ultimate puzzle, the human brain.
Yes.
Let's finish with paper 19 by Yangxuan Zhu, Zhao, Jiquan Wang, Xijin Li, and Gang Pan. Paper 19 introduces BrainAgent. This is an LLM-driven multi-agent framework that translates natural language commands into end-to-end processing pipelines for brain-computer interfaces.
It's deciphering brainwaves automatically.
Right. So I have to ask, if BrainAgent can decipher my raw brainwaves or a digital twin can perfectly mimic my speech to track my mental state, are we outsourcing the act of being a patient to the AI?
That is a profound question. If we connect all these papers together, the answer is no.
Okay.
These agents aren't replacing the patient, and they certainly aren't replacing the doctor. They're acting as a necessary translation layer.
Because the data is just too big.
Exactly. The biological data we are collecting today, raw brain waves, 3D spatial proteomics, continuous microexpressions, is massive and incomprehensible. It is beyond human capacity to process natively.
Right.
The AI agent's job is to sit in the middle and translate that massive biological noise into actionable human understanding.
That is a phenomenal way to frame it. We have covered incredible ground today. We explored 20 papers showing how AI is evolving.
We really did.
We saw it move from fragile tools that stumble over demographic biases and human annotation quirks into robust multimodal systems that use text as a flashlight to anchor themselves in reality.
Right.
We've seen AI that can read your pulse from a standard webcam, map the physical mountains and valleys of a protein, and autonomously navigate the most complex medical data we have.
The evolution is clear. We are building infrastructure that doesn't just record medical data, it actively reasons about it.
Exactly. So here is the takeaway for you. The next time you visit a hospital, the invisible infrastructure around you won't just be passively dumping your data into a server. It will be actively reasoning across dozens of modalities, catching the micro-expressions, the subtle changes in your scans, and the connections a human might easily miss.
It's going to be revolutionary.
It is. But before we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final thought, building on those digital twins from paper 4. If an AI can perfectly mimic your conversational style and cognitive patterns to track your mental decline, what happens to that digital twin after you're gone?
Oh, wow.
Could your family continue to talk to an exact cognitive snapshot of you from your healthiest days? It's something to think about. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Stay insanely curious.